I'm Sona Oganesyan, and this is an interview for a special edition of Pan-Armenian Net. Today, we have the opportunity to sit down and have an informal conversation with Ambassador Richard Mills, who has had a fascinating career. He has served at some of the most important and difficult posts in the Foreign Service, and he has received 9 honor awards. In July 2014, he was nominated by President Barack Obama to be U.S. Ambassador to Armenia. Ambassador Mills, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you, Sona.
How would you describe what you do?
I think what I do is bridge Armenia and the United States. I try to explain what's happening here to the U.S. government back in Washington. And I think, to explain to Armenians what the United States wants to see happen in the world, what we want to achieve with our Armenian partners here, and communicate the values that we both share back and forth.
What did you study, and did you know then that you wanted to be an ambassador?
I did know I wanted to be ambassador. I never articulated it out loud. I was afraid I'd jinx myself if I did that. But I very much, at an early age, thought working overseas, communicating what I loved about America, what I loved about being an American, would be a terrific career. And I studied international relations in college, and it was a terrific background. And however, I got a little bit detoured. For personal reasons involving a woman, I decided not to join the Foreign Service, and I became a lawyer for a while. And I practiced law in Washington, which was a great career, and I enjoyed it. But I always had this sort of bug. It would be terrific to serve overseas, terrific to help explain the United States to other people, and to learn about other cultures at the same time. So I took the Foreign Service exam, and much to my surprise, passed. But I did like being a lawyer, and it actually took me some time. I was very lucky. I was looking for a law firm that had a lot of partners in it, a lot of members who had served overseas. They had worked in the Peace Corps, some had been in the military. And when I came to them, they said, all right, we'll give you a year. You can take leave without pay for a year, and if you don't like this diplomatic life, then you can come back. And you'll know you were born to be a lawyer. So it was a great deal, so I took it, joined the Foreign Service, and I have to admit, so after 3 months, I knew this was the life I wanted. So I went back to my firm and said thank you, became a diplomat and never looked back.
Well, speaking of a special woman, she's also a diplomat.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your wife, and is she in Armenia right now?
My wife is a very special lady. I'm very, very lucky. She's been a partner throughout this whole career, this whole journey. She is in Armenia. She was a diplomat. She actually entered the Foreign Service before I did. So she's outranked me throughout my career, which she likes to remind me at all times.
Of course.
She was on her second tour in Paris at our embassy, which was my first tour.
And you speak French?
I do speak French, yeah. And she was guichet 3, window 3. I was guichet 4, window 4, on the visa line. And I was, very professional. My first job, the last thing I wanted to do was get romantically involved with a coworker. That was not a good idea. And but I was having a hard time. I would be refusing people to come to the United States for visas, and there would be huge scenes at the window and people upset and crying. And next to me, this never happened. And so one day I leaned over and I said, "What is your secret?" And Lee said to me, "Oh, I just let everyone in." So, which wasn't the truth. But we started talking, and the next thing I knew, we were together, and we've been together now for almost 28 years.
Wow. So it's safe to say she's influenced some of your policies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's taught me a lot. And it was interesting. We were and we call in the diplomatic corps, we call a tandem couple, because we both had careers.
Right.
And that involved some sacrifice, some planning. State Department has rules, and when you're at a relatively low level, it's kind of easy to get assigned together.
Right.
But as you rise, and Lee rose, again, faster than I did, it was harder to be together. But we were able to make it work, and I know she loved her career. She retired 5 years ago from the service, Her last assignment was in Switzerland, and she was at our embassy in Bern. And she is here with me now, and she really enjoys it. She's really having a good time. She stays involved in the service. We have the State Department a corps of retired former officers who are on standby, and if someone gets sick in Manila or there's a problem in London, they ask people from this corps to fill in, and Lee does that every now and then.
Okay.
So she keeps her fingers into it, but she's an enormous advisor to me.
Yeah.
It's so great to be able to come home and have someone who kind of understands the issues.
Of course.
And can give me good advice.
Right. That kind of leads into my next question, which is, what is the most challenging part of what you do?
First, let me say, it's the best job in the world. It really is a terrific job. And to be here in Armenia, a country that I have followed for so long, is really just a terrific opportunity. And every day I get up and knock on wood, because I feel so lucky and very honored that President Obama and Secretary Kerry would give me this opportunity. I think the greatest challenge is there's so much opportunity here in Armenia, so much entrepreneurial spirit, so much enthusiasm. The country has so many assets and resources. The challenge is sometimes as an observer when you see something that gets in the way of achieving what the country could achieve. And you know, whether that's the problem of corruption here, which I know is a serious concern for a lot of Armenians, or whether it's the closed borders in the region, which we're working to open. I think it's seeing that and not being able, as an American, you want to just fix it right away.
Right.
And a lot of these issues take time, and they take working together with our partners. And that's the toughest part, I think.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
Oh, part of it is just working here at the embassy with this great team.
Right. You really do have a fantastic team. I got to meet a lot of them today.
Oh, you're very kind. I'm glad to hear that. I certainly believe it, but it's nice when it's validated by somebody else. No, it's a terrific team of individuals from our security office to USAID, to the public affairs, all very committed, terrific skills. So that's a great pleasure when you get to lead a terrific team. We have great local staff. I think even a lot of Americans don't really know that the heart and soul of any U.S. embassy is really the local staff who stay, who provide the continuity. And our local staff have been so helpful to me and bringing issues to my attention, keeping me really informed of what's happening.
Right.
And they're terribly skilled. So I think the best part is working here is the team. The other part is just meeting Armenians and getting a chance to hear what the average Armenian is concerned about. Every now and then correcting maybe a misimpression about the United States.
Right.
But also just underscoring how much we share Armenia in the United States, the same values, the same goals for the world. That's very rewarding.
What are maybe some obstacles that you didn't foresee?
Well, I'll be honest with you. One obstacle is I wish I spoke Armenian better.
So you don't speak it
Not
fluently just yet? Okay.
No. I can, say a few words of greeting and apologize in Armenian that I can't speak Armenian.
Okay.
But it's tough. I wish I could speak more freely. Now, it's not as big an issue as I thought, especially here in Yerevan. This is such a sophisticated place, as you know.
And everyone speaks English here now.
Most everyone.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they might know French.
Right.
And I have a little bit of Russian.
Yeah, you do have conversational Russian, right?
So I can talk to some folks in Russian if I need to. But yeah, that's a challenge and something I wish I could snap my fingers. And Armenian is such a beautiful language too. You want to speak it. It's tough.
A difficult language.
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, I have a hard time with it myself, so it's
well, that
definitely
makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a hard language. You have mentioned before that some of the goals for Armenia are to see Armenia be free, prosperous, and at peace with its borders. Can you tell me more about your thoughts on that?
That is our overarching goal for what we'd like to see in Armenia and our relationship. And I think I'm often asked, especially in an election year in the United States, like now, well, if this person wins or that party wins, will it change the relationship with Armenia? And to be honest, this goal has been our goal for Armenia really since independence 25 years ago. Right. Prosperous, democratic, secure Armenia at peace with its neighbors. And that remains President Obama's goal. It was the message I got when I was sent out here. This is your message, your goal when you arrive. Continue to work for this. I think, and people often say, well, does it matter who the ambassador is? And generally no, because this goal has remained the same for 25 years. But I think different ambassadors, in achieving that goal, focus on different priorities. You know, one ambassador may think, well, we need to be working on democracy and strengthening democratic institutions. Another ambassador may come in and focus on the prosperous part. Say, let's focus on economics and trade.
Right.
So that's where I think you see some change depending on the administration and who the ambassador is. You may have heard I gave a speech in November where I laid out my own priorities. Priorities I came to after listening a bit to Armenians, to the diaspora, to talking to the government. And so in November I sort of laid them out. We did want to focus on economics and trade. I think the economy here has reformed. It's reached a level where there are real opportunities here in some key sectors of the economy. So we want to help build that. Second priority, though, was fighting corruption. It's a serious issue here. I do hear from American investors. I hear from the diaspora in the States that it's a concern for them, and it's an obstacle to trade. So we need to work with our Armenian partners on that. Third, we're focused on human rights, democratization, strengthening that. And then fourth, something that did come especially from my talking to Armenians, was kind of a realization that a lot of Armenians, they understand really well our relationship, bilateral one, between Armenia and the U.S., but I don't think they had a very good understanding sometimes of what the U.S. was doing around the world. So one thing I'm very focused on is trying to explain a bit about U.S. foreign policy around the world, why we're doing what we're doing in Ukraine or Syria or China, why we care about global warming, just so Armenians have a better sense of the worldwide goals the United States has. Those are our four priorities.
Right. You feel Armenia is a good place for U.S. investment? I
do.
Why?
I think the economy is fairly sophisticated. We've, I think, achieved some reforms here, thanks to the hard work of the Armenian government, the Armenian business community, and there are opportunities here, especially in specific sectors. The IT sector, which everyone points to here, agriculture, tourism. So there are opportunities here, but I have to say, I have to caution U.S. businesses that come here. They need to come with their eyes open. They need to know they're not dealing in the United States. It's a different environment. There are issues here of a level playing field. Will you be treated the same as other companies? So you need to talk to the embassy, and you need to think through who your business partners are here, know the environment you're in. But if you can do that, there are real opportunities here. And there should be greater trade here between the two countries, I have to be honest.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you next. As before, years before, there was a lot more focus on humanitarian aid. Right now, the focus has shifted to trade.
Absolutely. You know, we say in-house between us that, you know, it's time for trade, not aid.
Right.
And Armenia has reached a level where that makes sense. And so we are very focused on that. And, you know, we've had some successes. Just last year, we had the largest U.S. investment in Armenia. The U.S. firm Contour Global bought the Voroton Cascade hydro plant. And so far, very successful. Deals worked well. As far as I know, Contour Global is very happy. So there are real opportunities here. And, you know, and the real need here is to open the borders. And that remains an issue, and the U.S. government's working on that. But there are opportunities, especially in the IT sector, because, you know, you don't ship your products across the border. You kind of just push a button in the IT sector, so it's much easier to get around the problems here.
How do you feel about developments of the new educational centers, such as TUMO and Didijan College?
They're terrific resources for Armenia. Frankly, I wish we had something like TUMO in the United States.
So do I.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed TUMO. Yeah.
It's just a terrific opportunity. It's developing a generation of Armenian young people, especially young girls. It's amazing when you go to TUMO. I don't know if your viewers know, but TUMO is this center that's teaching fairly sophisticated computer skills after school to children in Yerevan, and now they've opened another one in Gyumri. But you know, it's not even just the computer skills. You've been there. The confidence the kids have, the leadership qualities. They're sort of learning to think critically and ask questions. It's amazing. And again, you just see so many young girls and women there, more than I think you would see at a similar program in the States, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What role do you feel the Armenian diaspora plays?
A huge role. A huge role. The diaspora in the United States is a partner with the embassy. It's a source of information for the embassy. And for the Armenian people, it's an enormous resource that Armenia is very lucky to have, to be quite honest. I just was in the United States in March, you may know, doing a diaspora tour, meeting with diaspora communities in New York, Boston, Detroit, LA, Fresno. And it was an opportunity to hear what the diaspora was concerned about, see if my priorities interested them, whether they could amplify the message. And I think I was pleased that they really were interested. They were very focused on the economic aspect. They do want to see that improve. They responded to the issue of corruption. They want to try and help address that issue. So they are an enormous resource for Armenia and for the embassy. And, I'd like to see more diasporans come to Armenia. They bring great skills and great experience here. So.
Well, there have been a lot of non-Armenians coming here recently too, a lot of famous non-Armenians.
Yes.
I work in LA, as you know, and I was talking to Larry King recently, and he was talking about his invitation to come to Armenia. And we were just in general discussing, you know, at that time, George Clooney was coming to Armenia. What are the advantages and the disadvantages as far as like the media exposure that Armenia gets with all of these famous non-Armenians coming here?
Well, I have to say the biggest disappointment of my time here so far is I did not get to meet George Clooney.
Oh.
So if Mr. Clooney is here, please come back. He's invited to dinner at my house anytime.
What about the Kardashians?
I'm really more interested in meeting his wife, Amal, to be honest. I didn't meet the Kardashians either.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So.
Conan O'Brien?
I didn't meet Conan.
No.
No, so you can see this job isn't quite as powerful as you think. So.
Right.
No, I would say, though, that all this attention is terrific.
Yeah.
It brings great profile to Armenia. It brings, you know, the attributes that Armenia has, the tourist sites, sounds to a lot of different people. You know, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, when they were here, I understand she has like the most Twitter followers of anyone in the world.
It's pretty incredible.
It's pretty incredible, and when she tweets, millions of people see her pictures of Totef and Republic Square.
Yeah, we were all live streaming from the States, watching everything that's going on here.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty incredible.
It is, and I give Ms. Kardashian and a lot of credit. She came here, and I think she really made an impression on the Armenian people, and they responded quite positively. And I heard from the manager of the hotel where she stayed, for instance, that after she left and the weeks afterwards, they had 50% more calls from people saying, we want to stay at your hotel, we want to stay at the room where Kim Kardashian stayed.
That's what I was interested in, if there was any kind of a shift like that after.
Yeah, no, there definitely was. And the Conan O'Brien piece, I think that also had a real impact. I had lots of friends in the States who I didn't hear from, but once that show ran on Conan O'Brien, they all started emailing saying, oh, now we know where you are. Wow, that looks really cool. Like, we'll come visit. So.
And then they shot The Amazing Race here as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of coverage of Armenia recently in American media.
It's funny how it just sometimes comes together and you get a perfect storm.
Yeah. So what was your biggest culture shock coming to Armenia?
The biggest culture shock. Well, you know, part of it is how, I think you're from Los Angeles, you're familiar with this. In the States, people are very careful about what they eat and how much they eat. And it's almost impolite now to say to someone, well, you didn't finish your mashed potatoes. Right. But, you know, here, the culture of food, and you show affection and hospitality through food. And it's been hard. To be honest, I've gained a lot of weight because Armenians are so friendly. But they want you to eat. You can't say, oh, thanks, I've had 3 helpings of dolma. Well, why don't you have a 4th helping of dolma?
Exactly.
So that's been a little tough.
See, you're creating perfect segues into my next questions.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can help.
Yeah, because my next question was going to be, what is the oddest food you've eaten here? Because there are things that have been pretty odd for me to eat here.
Very interesting. The oddest food. I've had many strange vodkas. Yeah, a lot of strange vodkas. I'll go out into the regions and very nice, lovely people will bring out some strange vodka that they've made. Pomegranate vodka.
Right.
Somebody had made a vodka using oranges and limes. And it's always incredibly powerful.
Yes.
And I have to watch how much I drink. But that's probably...
Yeah. We had some friends that were coming from all over the world for our wedding last year. And they had all these variations of vodka, and all the drinkers thought like, oh, no problem, we're taking shots, you know? They don't know what they're dealing with here.
No, they really don't. The stuff that, you know, 2 shots and I could be on a table with my pants up over my head, and it's not pretty, so I have to really watch
Oh, you're a pretty fun sport then. Yeah.
What should I be eating? What food do you recommend?
Oh my God.
It's very uniquely Armenian.
Uniquely Armenian?
Yeah.
I like the barbecue and the potatoes. It's pretty simple with me. What's your favorite Armenian food?
That's a good question. Well, I love the apricots.
Right.
Especially this time of year. You get the world's best apricots. They're so fresh and so tasty, and, you know, again, love American produce, love American vegetables.
But there's a difference.
But there's a difference here. They taste really...
We know what organic is like here.
Exactly.
Real organic food.
They're very fresh. So that's great. So
do you have a favorite phrase in Armenian with the Armenian that you have learned being here?
Oh my gosh, a favorite phrase. Well, Kahandi pink shoot off.
Wait, say that again?
Kahandi pink shoot off. See you soon.
Oh!
At least I hope that's what I'm saying.
Yes, now I got it. Kahandi pink shoot off.
Kahandi pink shoot off.
Okay, that is a fun phrase.
That's I like to say, because it also, you know, I travel about. It's not the last time I'm going to see folks. We'll continue the dialogue.
Yeah.
See you soon.
That's a nice farewell. What's your most memorable experience in Armenia so far?
I've had several. I've been really fortunate. I would have to say that last year, being here for the centennial of the 1915 tragedies, was an incredibly moving experience. Mm-hmm. And I was really honored to be part of the official delegation that President Obama named. You probably know, was headed by Secretary of Treasury Liu. We had some Congress people here, and it was just a very moving and emotional experience. And it's something I'll never forget. And I know Lee, my wife, won't forget either. She was here for a large part of it. So that any experience, any memory I have here will begin with that. Mm-hmm. I would say since then, another important experience, or something I think I'll always remember, is I went to a women's support network here. Just an NGO out in the countryside that was doing really good work with young women, sort of teaching them leadership skills, empowerment skills, all the way up to teaching or working with women political leaders to give them skills, political skills and things. And a young woman, probably about 16 or 17, came up to me, and she had just decided to run for her class president in high school. And she just took my hand and she just said, Mr. Ambassador, I wouldn't have been able to do this if I hadn't been able to come to this center and I hadn't been inspired by some of the women embassy officials that have come and spoken to her. And that was really quite moving for me.
Yeah.
It really was. And an example of how the very smallest things we can do here, sometimes just showing up, makes a real difference down the line. So.
Yeah. What are your goals and dreams for the future?
Well, as I said, like everyone, I would love to see the issues that are keeping Armenia from its full potential resolved. If we could reach a negotiated settlement over Nagorno-Karabakh so that that issue could be taken off the table, that would be just an enormous accomplishment for Armenia and for the region. I'd love to see democracy and human rights here really take root further than it has. Armenia is blessed to have, I think, a very active civil society and a very engaged population. But there's still weaknesses in the electoral system. I think issues that need to be addressed. That would be terrific. Those would be my immediate goals here in Armenia for this place. Personally, I just would like to continue working with the great team I have here. And I'm hoping that the next 2 years, I have roughly 2 years probably left here, that we can continue to make little progress on my priorities, fighting corruption, business, democracy, and talking about U.S. foreign policy. We can make progress.
What advice would you give someone who's considering this career?
Be curious. That's really what I think a good diplomat needs to be, is just to be curious. Be open to new things. Be willing to defend American values, to talk about America in a positive way, but also to be honest about where America might have made mistakes or where our ambitions and our values didn't come to fruition. It's important to be honest about that. But to be honest, to be curious about other people as well, and to listen and understand what they don't understand about our life, our values, our system, and be able to be curious about what we can learn from other cultures. And that's one thing I would say. So many Armenian will say to me, why does the United States care so much? Why are you here? And of course, part of the reason is, well, we have this history together, we share the same values, but Armenians have a lot to offer us. The United States can learn a lot.
What would you say the United States could learn from Armenia?
I think we could learn how to be a neighbor, as Armenia is with Iran, which is a very different society, a very different culture. The Armenian community there, though, is quite successful, and that's something the United States can learn from, too. And I think anyone who looks at Armenian history, the whole course of it, has to be impressed with how the Armenian people have held on to this culture and how it has unified them. And throughout the travails of history and throughout the coming and goings of empires, and as recently as 25 years ago, at the end of the Soviet Empire, holding on to those traditions, holding on to that culture has kept the Armenian people together and then allowed them to resurface, create a new country 25 years ago on new principles and values. And that's something the United States can learn a lot from. It's a model for a lot of us.
I know you have an incredibly busy schedule. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. This was a really fun interview.
Well, thank you, and I had a terrific time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.